So the title is a very broad title, The Influence of Churches and Religions on Social and Political Processes. So as I was preparing these remarks, I was thinking what would be a good approach to come to this topic in a very concrete way and avoid the danger of just remaining in the area of theorizing. So for that, I would like to take you back to the 2nd of June, 1979. The Polish amongst us will know immediately where I am referring to. I'm taking you to Victory Square in Warsaw, in Poland, where a great statesman and now saint, Pope John Paul II, showed the Polish people, millions assembled there and elsewhere throughout the country, and their totalitarian communist rulers, and I would say, and the rest of the world, how vital can be the influence of faith on social and political processes. In fact, it was so vital that both the Soviet leadership under Leonid Brezhnev as well as the Polish Communist Party tried all they could and actually failed to stop the Polish Pope from visiting his country, as it was his first foreign trip after being elected Pontifex in October 1978. Again, our Polish friends will know the many stories that are around the Soviets trying to stop this and how miserably they failed at that. In fact, there is one anecdote where I think the Polish leader of the communist talks with the Soviet leader, and when the visit was once confirmed that John Paul II was coming, and apparently they or others said, well, this is the beginning of the end. And I think it's true, because history shows that. In fact, and here I would like to come to one of the core messages I would like to leave with you today. There is a reason why totalitarian regimes and ideologies are so afraid of religion and people of faith. We see this, for example, currently playing out under the rule of the Chinese Communist Party in China. They are so afraid of people of faith because people of faith, they have their ultimate identity and loyalty to God, their creator. The state or the party or the ideology comes after that. And this is always a source of concern for those who want complete power over the people. So it was 10 years later, in 1989, that communism fell in Europe. We all remember the images of the Berlin Wall falling and many other images. This fall of communism was aided by an American president, Reagan, a UK Prime Minister, Thatcher, a Soviet leader who restrained himself, Gorbachev, but above all, a Polish Pope who gave those living under the yoke of Marxism-Leninism a new sense of freedom, rooted in the rallying cry of his papacy of human dignity that cannot be understood fully without a reference to God the Creator. The words of John Paul II on Victory Square reverberated throughout the massive crowd of hundreds of thousands of Polish and led to the longest applause ever. As he said, "For man cannot be fully understood without Christ, or rather man is incapable of understanding himself fully without Christ. He cannot understand who he is, nor what his true dignity is, nor what his vocation is, nor what his final end is." Now, many of you might wonder why these strongly religious words, this quote, at this panel today. We're dealing here with secular politics. I would like to explain that to you, because what John Paul II did as a statesman and a religious leader at the same time is that he brought back to the suppressed people a sense of individual dignity, through once more allowing them to recognize the transcendent, to overcome the purely materialistic worldview of the entirely self-made man at the center of the universe. He liberated them from the prison of totalitarianism, a political social system of total control that does not recognize the worth and freedom of the individual human being. People of faith, through their active participation in society and political life, can bring this vitally important dimension in order to humanize our dealings with each other as human beings. Without the transcendent dimension, as we saw under communism and as we see under many ideologies today, without this transcendent dimension, we feel no longer accountable to a higher authority, to a higher reality, and thus pretend, as we so often see humanity falling into, we pretend to be that higher reality ourselves, easily following into the injustice and barbarism that 20th century Europe is so full of, and the lessons on which the European Union we see today was actually built. So we have to be careful that we don't make the same error again. And there are many indicators that we are. So the role of churches and religions, not so much, mind you, as institutions, but as the individual faithful that are part of them, is to help the political process remain humane and focused on social justice and cohesion and the never-ending search for peace. And so this brings me to the war in the Ukraine and our approach to it. As people of faith, we can only shed tears, as some of you might have seen that Pope Francis did in Rome on Thursday. This video went viral where he was praying at one of the Marian churches for peace in the Ukraine, and he actually started crying, and that was not some sort of political stunt, that was real. So we people of faith can only shed tears at the injustice being done to the people of Ukraine, the death and destruction that is once again visiting our beloved European continent. A scourge done by a people that should know better, many of them claiming to be Christians. But we ourselves have to remain vigilant as well. Are we doing all we can to bring peace? In its June 2022 statement, the World Council of Churches says the following. It says, this tragic development of the invasion of the Ukraine represents a terrible failure of diplomacy, responsibility, and accountability to international law. And it also says that the conflict is accompanied by massive proliferation of weapons in the region, but weapons cannot provide a solution to this crisis. The only real solution is to seek peace and pursue it. So the question we have as people of faith, as churches and religions, have we done enough, apart from our governments providing the necessary military and political aid? Have we done enough to find peace? And here in conclusion, I would like to plead for a much more coordinated and outspoken role of churches and people of faith, especially the people of faith in politics, in a truly ecumenical effort. I would like to make two proposals for you to reflect on, and also the representatives of Christian churches here to reflect on. As we have seen throughout history, there is something that we call peaceful resistance. And I would like to divide it in two areas. First, there is a need for a global prayer offensive for peace in the Ukraine, together with all the Christian churches, also our Russian Orthodox brethren. A global prayer offensive. That would be a good start, where all the Christian churches and any other religious communities who would like to join have this one effort to pray for peace. And second, and here I'm making a historical reference, peaceful resistance against Putinism in Russia should be supported, like John Paul II did through Solidarność in Poland under communism. And work should be done with dissidents, especially again in the Russian Orthodox Church. Don't forget that this also happened after the Helsinki Conference, the Helsinki Act of 1975. And it happened in the open, and it should happen again. People of goodwill in all these countries should be joined together to peacefully bring down totalitarianism, as was done by Pope John Paul II and so many very brave people in Poland, in Czechoslovakia, in Hungary, in all the countries of the former Eastern Bloc. It was their peaceful rising up, their peaceful reclaiming their human dignity that led to the fall of communism and a peaceful transfer to democracy. So here churches and people of faith can have a major impact on the political process, as they had in the past, and contribute to peace and justice, free as they are in their first loyalty to their Creator. Thank you.